Okay, new day. I left off doing these tubes that are down there. Since then, I ordered some parts from, from Oshcut. They're over in Utah, and you just send them your CAD files, choose the material and finish you want, and they'll send your CAD files over to you. And as I mentioned previously, on DIY off-road, I bought some CAD files that match the specs of this rear end. So that's just the rear link mats for the axle, and it's about, I want to say, $250 in total to get it shipped and everything, and buy the CAD drawings. So it's not too bad compared to Camberg doing it, which would be like $700. So yeah, if you want to do it yourself, it's a little bit cheaper. I'll try to save money where I can. So one thing is that the bolt holes are slightly too tight, so I'll have to open those up a little bit. But other than that, this should be able to be tacked up. I'm gonna do that today, and hopefully everything works out. Alright guys, so I ended up knocking out all the holes with this 3/4 inch step bit. The holes were actually more accurate than I thought. When you're plasma cutting, there's a start and stop little notch. You could see the one that's right here, and that was just actually in the inside of this circle, and that was the main reason why the bolts wouldn't fit. Once you get rid of that little notch that the plasma cutter leaves behind, the bolts fit in perfect. Can't get much better than that. So for all of the front misalignment spacers, they are all 3.5 inches of spread, and then all the rear ones, I thought it would be a good idea to get all 3-inch, and unfortunately I took a look back at the CAD drawing, and it's supposed to be 2.8 inches, which is kind of unusual. Usually it goes by like 1/4 inch increments, but that means when I put this plate up to here, there's like a 1/4 inch gap. It looks something like that. So I have to knock down like 2 millimeters or so on each end of this. This flat section up here is the only thing we'll be touching. So I don't think that's going to affect any travel numbers, because the Dirt King misalignment spacers have a very unique step right here that maximizes the angle you can put into the heims. So by taking a little material off the top, I don't think that we're going to be affecting anything. And then if you look at where the bolt goes, which is about this is probably 3/4 of an inch right here. So it's not like sticking way in here where it'll hit this piece. There's no way it'll hit that piece unless it's like at a crazy angle. So I think that we'll just take off the amount we need here, and everything will fit perfectly fine, and I don't think it'll affect anything negatively. So okay, so I ended up grinding this misalignment down as much as I can. It's not 100% perfect, but it's close enough. This can show us how accurate it is. I don't know if you could see that. There's a slight gap right there, or a high side. So it's not perfect, but it'll hold the stuff in place at the right width. I decided to just do it on one of them because I don't want to ruin two of them. If I cue this on, it gives us pretty close joint to weld. It's still not 100% there, but I think that's doable. Alright guys, so I just tacked this all up, and it was pretty easy. Got the fitment pretty close, pretty much perfect how I want it. Alright guys, so when I test fit it onto the rear end, this is pretty much what it looks like so far. You saw I knocked all the nail scale off, but it was pickled and oiled, so I didn't really need to, but I like that nice shiny finish. And then you saw me tack up the side pieces, and those didn't end up fitting right away, so I'm gonna have to do these after I weld it in, but this will pretty much be like that. And then later on I might make like little cover pieces to make it look a little better. This pretty much is the same design that Camberg uses, but it just doesn't have the outer plates. I did say I was gonna TIG weld this, but it's a little bit hard to get into these tight spots, so probably just gonna end up MIG welding it. But maybe stuff like this I'll probably end up TIG welding the little cover plates, or I could always just take this apart again. But the thing is, when you weld one piece at a time without it being tacked together, it has a high chance of warping, and I really don't want to warp this piece. So I'm probably just going to tack it all up and MIG weld it, which doesn't really matter anyways because no one will see it, but I'm not getting a TIG torch into that little teeny box, so. Alright, so it's a new day. I haven't recorded in a while, but I left off recording me building these shock mounts, and I was able to get them on according to what I could find on Camberg's website. So if you look at the CAD drawing that Camberg has on their website for when you're building or when you're choosing a rear end housing, there's actually a 3-link diagram CAD drawing, and it shows how far the upper links is compared to the lower links, as well as other things. And then on the 3-link description, they tell you that the lower links need to have a 46-inch spread center to center. So that's what I did, and then everything seems to check out. They also say that the link mounts should be perpendicular to the housing, so I would normally probably want to run them underneath the housing, but since Camberg says to do it that way, I'll listen to them. But I was practicing my TIG welding on these outer pieces, and I think I'm getting a little bit better. This time around I was trying to manage my heat control because sometimes I turn it all gray because of how hot it is. So I think I did a pretty good job on those. And then I'm gonna end up doing that top piece over there when I get some gas. But for right now, everything's all tacked in. I think once I cycle everything and it checks out, I'll start welding stuff on, but for now, I'll just leave it tacked on. When I was cycling it, these body mounts are actually in the way. And if you guys are longtime subscribers to the channel, you'd know that I built some solid body mounts in here. I no longer need body mounts anymore because in many places in the interior cage, I have gussets that are welded onto the body, so these don't really do a whole lot. So I was actually gonna go buy a little air compressor because I don't have one at the moment, so that I could use my plasma cutter to get these out because I'm unable to get them out, and it'd be a lot of cutting with the angle grinder. So for right now, yeah, I can't really cycle my 4-link quite yet, but if you'd imagine this link being high enough to touch that, I got this aluminum plate, and I have trick tabs that I'm welding on, stainless hardware, stainless washers so nothing rusts, and I just made this little piece where the fuel cell will sit because I feel a little bit weird about just setting it onto tubes like that. But all the weight will be right here for the most part. But I brought the cell outside and I'm gonna put it in here pretty soon. I need to clock this filler neck this way. I don't know why on their website it shows it going this way, but the 10AN vent is too big because it will hit this filler neck, so I'm gonna clock this straight backwards. I don't have another truck, so getting these big pieces of aluminum, I had to cut it to fit inside my car, but luckily when I told him to take around 10 inches off, it ended up actually fitting in this spot pretty good. So I got lucky on that because I didn't have to waste any material. I just had to trim this to, I want to say 33 inches. And then I marked 1/2 inch in and then the center point. So that's where these trick tabs are in relation to this sheet on all of the sides. So everything's all symmetrical. I'm gonna get this fuel cell in and see how it fits. Okay, so here's the fuel cell inside of the little pocket. You could see the little bolt and washer on both sides. It looks like it fits in pretty nicely. It does bow outwards, so the cage is kind of at like a angle, and it's closer on that side, and there's a little gap right here. But I think it looks pretty good where it is. There's a lot of more space than I thought there would be, but it dropped right in. I'll probably end up making this a storage area. One of the main drawbacks of having the cell in the back right here is that you'd have to have your storage area in the front, but I think this would be perfect if I were to panel this all in and make a trunk or something. So then if I, had to go get the groceries or something like that, I could drive this nice daily to the store. What I'm gonna have to eventually do here is there's all these bolts around the fuel cell, which, if you don't know, this is the metal on the outside is actually not what holds the gas in. There's another layer inside made of plastic, similar to a normal fuel cell or a normal fuel tank, and then the metal just actually keeps that. It's more for structure, I would say. Normally you'd have a fuel cell cage, but since there's a lot of structure around the fuel cell, there's no need to have a fuel cell cage, as well as it being supported on the bottom and right here. You can see this cross member holds up everything. There is a little teeny gap. I think I might plate this X in as well, just so it keeps the fuel cell paint good, and it's not like rubbing on these tubes or anything. These bolts on the outside need to all be captured. I'm gonna just get some of this metal stock. I need to measure the spread between each bolt. I'm sure it's all the same for each one, but and then I'll have to find a way to either make like a tie-in or something. I have to get creative with it, but I don't have to get every bolt, but the more the merrier.